Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I had just seen on your Instagram that it's your birthday coming up.
Yeah, tomorrow gonna be 44.
How does that
Can't believe
feel?
it. Yeah, feels old. Feels real
Well, dude,
old.
I was having this conversation with Chris Kosman too. I was like, how come endurance runners really hit their stride in their mid 40s? Like, you would think it's a sport dominated by dudes in their 20s, but it's like guys your age are the ones that are really starting to hit the pinnacle.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, there's a pretty steep learning curve as far as what your body needs and wants. And the guys that go really hard and that are really talented, fast runners, they sort of burn out after, short periods of time and go do other things like, have families and jobs and stuff like that. And people in their 40s and 50s, like, we have jobs, we have families. Most of our families are a little older. So we've settled into a routine, and it's easier for us to like maybe juggle all the time management issues. Whereas like if you're 25 and you're just starting a family, that's kind of hard to put in all the hours that you need to train to be a superstar or ultra runner.
Well, do you think you're more patient now than you were when you were 26?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm more patient now than I was when I was 36. I used to run ultras like, Prefontaine used to preach. I used to like literally go out as hard as I could and just hope I didn't burn up. And a lot of times I did. My old philosophy used to be that I would try to get to the pain cave as fast as possible, because once I was there, then I was at least like comfortable. But then, a lot of times your body would just give up about mile 75 or 80. And it was like hard to, and then I just limp my way to the end. Every once in a while you'd have that perfect race where pushing hard the whole time worked out, but most of the time it did not work out. And now, running with Ray Sanchez a lot, who's like, I think he's like 56 or something. He's taught me a lot about being patient, really taking the first like 50 or so miles very, very slow, and then sort of like ending strong. And it's worked out well. So I'm going to keep doing it until I figure out something else that works. So
Now, when you say you started ultras, actually, before we even dive into it, can you just give a quick synopsis of who you are and what you do for anyone that's going to listen into this?
okay, sure. So my name's Andy Glaze. I am a fire captain and I suppose ultra runner. Right now, I'm in the middle of or maybe the end or the beginning of a running streak where I've been running over 100 miles a week for 101 weeks. So, and that translates to over 8,000 miles a year for the last couple of years. So, really high mileage, but like I do it at a pretty slow pace, zone 2 or 3, and just kind of grind away. Done a lot of ultras. I mean, not as many as a lot of people, but I try to do harder ultras and really challenge myself. I love mountain ultras. I mean, I guess that's it. I love running and I love talking about running. So
Let me
I
give a
guess.
quick preface to anyone that's tuning into this, which I had told you on the phone. So I was in such an unbelievable casket after the Coldwater Rumble. I went to the
Right.
hospital. So as soon, even 10 seconds within crossing the finish line, I knew from 75 to 100 that if I sat down, I was going to fall apart. I knew it. So I didn't stop at any aid stations for the last 25, and I just kept going. And my pacer, he crewed me a bunch, and he would go get the water, the electrolytes, whatever we needed. And I go to the hospital, get rhabdo. My pee looks like orange soda for like 6 days. I have no skin on my foot. I am in a casket. And I'm looking at all the people who finished the cold water. And so I follow you on Strava. And dude, I couldn't walk for 3-4 days following the 100. And I'm looking at your data and I'm like, wait, this dude just ran a half marathon, not even a day after the 100. And I'm like, what is this dude on? This is insane. And so then I started diving into some of your Strava data and your content. And it's just like, it seems like you've wired your body to just be a machine like this. Now, how long has the evolution of your physical fitness been? When did this really start for you?
I mean, are you talking on this like ultra level where I'm doing these high miles, or just like my physical fitness in general?
Let's say when you started really getting into running, first marathon, first half marathon.
Okay, so I mean, probably about 20 years ago, I took a college class on exercise science, and like I had to run a mile and a half, and it was like a terrible experience. And I like literally couldn't sit down for like a week, and thought to myself, man, I never want to feel like this again. So I just kept running to try to never experience that again. Um, and that's where it kind of started like 20 years ago. And then naturally sort of progressed into racing, 5Ks, 10Ks. I got really into like half marathons for a while. I really, really liked that distance. Um, and I did a lot of triathlons. I really liked those for a while. Just sort of like endurance type activities I got really, really into. And the thing is when I started this journey, I was a very unhealthy 20-something-year-old, heavy cigarette smoker. And I sort of used exercise as a way to quit smoking. Just unhealthy in general. Didn't live a good lifestyle. And so I went from like one extreme of being very unhealthy to the opposite extreme of, being very physically fit. So the takeaway from that is it's never too late to start. I mean, you probably wouldn't think of me as somebody that used to smoke 2 packs a day for multiple days. I mean, years. And yet here I am running 100-mile races. So,
well, truthfully, it doesn't really surprise me because you have the addictive genetic, as a lot of people in the sport do. So like, were you ever a big drinker, or like, do you do drugs ever?
not, I mean, kind of like when I was a young kid, like any young kid, I got into all that nonsense, and my parents sent me away, and I got myself straight. But, not really as an adult, but as a kid, I was a bad kid. So, but I do have an addictive personality for sure. Anything I do, I tend to do 110%. And if I don't like it, I don't do it. And if I love it, then I do it so much that it gets a little ridiculous. So, and like I said, like triathlons. And when I did triathlons, it was like, I did 1 million of them. Then I got really into OCR, and I did 1 million. I think I did 66 Tough Mudders, because I loved them. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to do as many as I possibly can. And then I got into ultras doing the Tough Mudders, and I've done a fair amount of ultras, but I do a lot of like sort of self-supported ultra stuff because it's easier for my schedule. I don't have to wait for the weekends and everything. And I sort of like running long distance, but not necessarily in a race format. So, yeah, I'd say the long distance stuff, I've been doing it for maybe like 7 years. I've only run 1 marathon. It was the New York City Marathon. I happened to win the lottery. I read this Murakami book. I don't know. It's like his book on running. I can't think of what it's called, but he talks all about the New York City Marathon. And I got like super inspired, and I was like, I'm going to enter the lottery. And then I won the first year I entered, which is like unheard of. It's like 3% chance. So I went and ran that. And
was this pre-ultra days, or was this?
No, I did it actually in the middle of a bunch of ultras. Like I think I ran an ultra, then I flew out and did the New York City Marathon. Then I came back and I did the Quad Dipsy, which is a race up in San Francisco. Then I did the 24-hour Tough Mudder, and then I did like a 50-mile race up in San Francisco, all back to back to back. So, yeah, I just threw it in. I didn't train for it at all, and that's the only marathon I've ever run. So, other than daily marathons that I run all the time, but like organized marathon, that's the only one. So, not really.
How did you perform?
I think I got like a 3:33 or something. I was shooting for a 3:30, and I think like the last mile or so I sort of fell apart there. But I had run a 50 miler the week before, So, like I said, and I didn't train any speed or anything like that. I just went out there and just the adrenaline of the moment got me running faster than I normally do. So
For sure. Yeah. It's a question that like, I think a lot of people who don't understand the distinction between athletes in the ultra world and the normal marathon world. A lot of people don't understand, like, no one is really that fast in the ultra world,
nah,
And so 3:30 is a pretty impressive marathon for a guy who goes out. And I mean, I'm sure you run like 10-minute, 11, 12-minute miles all the time.
yeah. I mean, I basically train how I want to run in a 100-mile race. That's how I think of it. Because if you run, if you ran a 10, I think like a 10:30 mile for 100 miles, that's like, I think that's like an 18:30 100-mile race, which is, pretty incredible for the average person. So, if I can maintain somewhere around 10, 11-minute miles, then, I'm feeling pretty good. And if I fall apart, I'll still probably get sub 24. So that's good too. I mean, that's always the golden rule, right? To try to do sub 24.
Yeah, that's, I think, another thing people don't really understand about the ultra world. That's kind of like it's like the same thing of achieving a sub 4 hour marathon.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a goal to go shoot for that most people want to perform at. But I mean, it obviously depends on the course you're running on, if that's even feasible.
Sure. I mean, I've run a lot of, UTMB I ran in 36 hours. So, it really depends on what you're running.
So were you like an incredibly rambunctious kid?
No, I wouldn't say not like physically. I mean, I played sports most of my life. I played football. I did a little bit of track and field, but it was mostly like, nothing serious. But I mean, from a young age, I played football all the way up until varsity. And then I just wasn't big enough to like make the varsity team after that. Cause I'm 6 foot and like, well, back then probably like 160 pounds. So just not really big enough to be a football player. And I didn't want to take steroids. So, but uh, not crazy. I mean, I was always athletic. I was always active, things like that, but not like nothing special, I
Well,
don't think
I
that I
more
had
so
any.
mean like classroom wise. Was it very hard for you to sit in a seat and like learn?
Uh, I mean, not just a whole. I was just really bored in school, but not like I don't think I had like intense ADHD. Um, I was always put in all those like really advanced classes as a young kid, so the teachers tended to teach at a higher level and try to keep us a little bit more focused and like AP classes and stuff like that. So I wasn't just learning the stuff that everybody else is learning, but yeah, I was just active, just normal kid, I guess. I
So it seems like it's just been a pretty like natural progression into your training load. It's just been like what, a 5-10 year process to get to this point, or
Yeah, I mean, when I started running like long distances like this, I I wasn't. I mean, 50-mile weeks, 70-mile was probably like my max. Um, and I don't know. It's just a slow progression. I would take lots of days off and all those sorts of things, cross train and um, I mean, where I'm at now is it's taken like everyone. I post all this stuff on social media, and everyone's like, "Well, how do you not get injured? How do you do this?" And it's like, well, like anything, like if you ask like somebody that just won the Super Bowl, well, how did you get so good at throwing that football? And it's like, well, I've spent years and years and years throwing it. I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands of miles running to perfect my form, to perfect everything about it, and that's how I don't get injured. But I don't know how to articulate that in a 3-sentence Instagram post.
I hear you.
But yeah, I mean, it was a very very slow progression to get to this point. Actually, I think in 2019, 18 or 19, I did 28 weeks in a row of 100-mile weeks. But I was doing like just straight 100 miles. Like now, I do like 150 to 200 miles a week, but like it was just straight 100 miles a week. It was very, very hard. And that's when I ended up running Badwater and had like, almost died in Badwater. And then that killed that streak. So that happened in 2018. And then 2019, I had like a really bad race in Japan where I got stuck in a mudslide and almost
Really?
died. And
Explain
got like
that.
some pretty. So I was doing UTMF, which is Ultra Trail Mount Fuji, which is like the UTMB is Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, which is the real famous race in France. And they have a bunch of races all over the world. So this one is in Japan, and you run all the way around like Mount Fuji, which is this giant mountain. And like a monsoon came in, and basically I got to the top of this mountain, like right as it was starting to get dark, and right as it was starting to get dark, like this monsoon hit, and it just started pouring rain, and we were trying to go down this very steep, rugged trail, and the whole mountain just gave away, and it was just like a mudslide. And it took me, I think, 7 hours to go like 2 or 3 miles off this mountain. And like literally, I really thought I was going to die, and had like all these really intense, talks with myself about, F this, I'm not racing anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. This is stupid, because I have a family and I have a wife, and, I want to be there for them. And, this is fun and all, but it's not worth dying for. And after that, I had about a year of just PTSD, like had a really hard time running. And I still ran, but not, I think I ran only 3,000 miles that year. So for me, that's like really low. I was, people would say, "Oh, how you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just out here faking it because I hate this. I don't even want to run right now." But like it's such.
Before you move on, so can you explain how you got off the mountain? How did you get out of the situation?
Well, so mudslide's going on, and I would literally have to like hold on to a tree and like look for the next tree and kind of slide down to it, grab a hold of it, and then like, progress down this mountain, like for, 2 or 3 miles, like down a very steep mountain with mud and everything flowing around me, cliffs on the side. They had these like signs with like skull and crossbones, like basically like, if you go that way, you're going to die. And the mud's trying to push us off these cliffs. And I think I fell like 27 times. And I'm talking like hard falls where you're then getting pushed down a mountain with mud, and you don't know what's going to happen. And there's broken trees all. Yeah. Well, I mean, other runners with headlamps and stuff, but we're in the dark. And when it's raining and it was foggy. So like what happens to a headlamp when it's foggy? Like you can't see shit, right? It's like, it just reflects the fog. So visibility is low. All these little trees were breaking, and they were basically making like spears that were like sticking up in the ground. And like, I'm worried I'm going to fall and impale myself on them. I mean, it was just like the worst case scenario. And, after like 7 hours of very slowly working my way down this mountain, I get to the bottom, and then I had to run like another 7 miles to the aid station. Oh. And, it was just like this death shuffle. I have a great picture of myself that some photographer took, where I just definitely, my catchphrase is "smile or you're doing it wrong." I was definitely not smiling. I was definitely looked like I'd just seen, my future, and it was not very bright. And I got to that aid station, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm not going back out. And then they ended up canceling the race because conditions were so bad. But yeah, it was, those 7 miles, I was just like, I'm not running anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And, I mean, I obviously couldn't quit running because it's a huge part of my life, but it took me a while to really fall back in love with it.
So it took you 7 hours. This is during the mudslide to descend on the mountain. Now, like, what is going through your head as soon as you see the mudslide roll in initially? Did you see, was it a gradual progression? Like, did you see this?
I mean, I was like really worried because I knew we had a really long downhill. So you start calculating, well, how long is this going to take me? I'm trying to find areas where it's not mudslide, and so like the trail that was once a trail that you're supposed to be following down, that's gone. So now it's just like a side of a mountain with a cliff to your left. And you're basically like, okay, I just got to get down this thing. And, I know it's downhill, so I'm just going to aim that direction. And you could see other little headlamps around, and just trying to get down it. I mean, there was no trail, there was no anything, just trees and mud.
So you had a moment where you were like, Andy, I'm in the middle of fucking Japan and I'm gonna have to descend through this fucking mudslide. What am I doing out here?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was just, I went into like survival mode, like literally, like, adrenaline shaking, like, every time I'd let go of one of those trees and try to slide to another tree, you don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to fall? Am I going to and I'm talking, it's steep. I'm not talking like a, gradual trail down a mountain. I'm talking like at times 20-30% grade, where you're like, you got to sit on your butt at sometimes to slide to the next tree because you can't even stand. It was terrifying. I legitimately, I thought I was going to die. And I don't say that lightly, like, oh yeah, like when you're in a car accident or something, you see your life flash before your eyes. Like, no, I was in a long traumatic, where if anything went wrong, I could have like severely been injured or died. And that, that touches your soul a little bit. And it took me, quite a while to get over that. So
now you're also a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
So how do you compartmentalize things like that now? I'm sure you've seen some stuff on the job.
Normally my PTSD from work, I deal with by running. I mean, that was like the other hard part is like, I've always dealt with any sort of post-traumatic stress through running. And then I couldn't really find the joy of running. So it couldn't really help me with the PTSD from the mountain. So it was like, I ended up like focusing a lot on my work. At the time, like I put all my energy into like a promotional exam, and I ended up like getting promoted. So like I took all the energy that I was putting into running at the time and studied and just focused on that, and then ended up getting a promotion. So, I mean, I turned a negative into a positive, but at work, like, I mean, people are always like, well, why do you run so much? Like, and a lot of it is like, I'm always trying to turn my brain off because, I see a lot of very disturbing things and am under a lot of like really high stress situations at times. And the only way I can like you said, compartmentalize that is to go run it out. Something about long distance running, there's like a click in my brain when I just stop thinking about all of that stuff, and it's just so freeing, and I love it. So, yeah, it works for me, and I think it works for other people too. But it's better than a lot of firefighters and police officers and military. They turn to alcohol or drugs or things like that, and for me, I can turn my brain off with a good run. So.
That is an insane story.
Yeah. I didn't talk about it for a long time either. It was like so traumatic. I didn't even write about it on social media. I think I just wrote like, yeah, the race didn't go as I, wanted, but it was like literally so true. I didn't even write a race report. Because, well, one, I knew that it was like ingrained in my brain forever. So a lot of times I write race reports so that I can look back and remember what I did like 10 years ago, but like, I will never forget that race. So I'm good on that level.
Do you have any other experiences like that in high stress situations during races? Have you ever been attacked by something like an animal chase after you?
No. I mean, I fell once and knocked myself out, and then had to run 8 miles out. I got a pretty bad concussion. That wasn't so fun. I mean, Badwater was a pretty traumatic experience because my whole body basically cramped up for like 2 hours. And I couldn't stop it no matter how much salt or water or mustard or, every trick in the book I did. Like I was in full cramp, like, when your calf cramps and you can't get it to stop. It was like that for like my entire body. And it was one of the more painful things that's ever happened to me. I think that's it. One time, I mean, it's not an ultra, but I do a lot of like long distance backpacking, and I was out off trail. We have this trail in California called the High Sierra Trail, which is a trail, but it's not a trail. It's kind of like
an idea.
Yeah, I mean, you go through certain areas, but there's no trail. and I was hiking through like a huge talus field, and my pole broke, and I fell forward and cracked my head open, and like profusely bled everywhere, and then had to climb like 3 or 4 13,000 foot passes to get out. And every time I, you know, climb them, my head would start bleeding again. And that was a little dramatic too. I normally have a spot device on me, but at the time I felt like I could self extricate, so I did. But yeah, I mean, the Japan one's the only one where I think I really felt like I was gonna like die. I mean, being in pain is one thing, but like really feeling like you're gonna die is something different.
Well,
So
I reminisce on the Coldwater was my first 100, and I think like I was so delusionally fucked up, like mile like 75 to like 95, and there was like no real aid out there. And I was thinking if I didn't have a pacer, I could very well be out here, and an animal could easily come up on me and like take advantage of me, attack me. You don't ever
right.
think that way? Like, dude, like one of those coyotes could have literally just tore my throat out and swallowed it if it wanted.
Yeah, I mean, we have mountain lions and bears out where I live, and I mean, I wouldn't be a real big fan to like run into one of those, but most animals are scared of us. So especially with a headlamp, and they can hear the music in our headphones or whatever, and the stomping. Most of them aren't going to like try to attack us. I'm more scared of like stepping on a rattlesnake or something like that than
Black widow spider.
yeah, or I mean, just anything other than a large animal attacking me. Um, if it happens, like, it's so rare, it'd be like, well, it'd be a cool story. At least I'd die with a cool story. Everyone could say, hey, remember that ultra runner guy, Andy? He got eaten by a mountain lion. I mean, cool way to die, I guess.
Yeah, like the guy who survived the mudslide. It was the little teeny itsy bitsy black widow spider that got him.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, I think what would be cool is for at least just people to hear is how you balance being a full-time firefighter and then also just logging these ridiculous amounts of miles. So like, what does a day look like for you normally?
Okay. So part of the mental illness of running long miles is that I wake up every morning like around 2:30 a.m. and I have like a sort of start routine that I do of breakfast and coffee and everything. And it's kind of like my time to like I browse social media and do like kind of wake up. And then I run super early in the morning while like my family's asleep, and try to get back in the afternoonish time, like not after, I guess, or late morning.
What is that mileage wise in the morning?
I mean, it depends. If I'm home, I try to get like over 20, like 20 to 30. And then if I'm at work, it varies because, people call 911 24/7. So I try to, at work, like we're allowed to like work out till about 9:30. So if I start early in the morning with calls and everything, I try to get maybe like if I'm lucky, I get like 15 miles. So it's like I'll run a couple miles, we'll get a call, we'll go run the call, I'll come back, run a couple more miles, we'll get a call. And I'll just do that kind of off and on until 9:30. And then we're allowed to run or exercise after 5. So then I'll go for another run after 5. And normally at work, my goal is like just like 20 miles a day. Like if I can get 20 miles a day, I'm happy. It doesn't always happen. Some days I get more. And then obviously sometimes I get less, but normally if I get 20, I'm happy. And then when I'm home, I do the same thing. I run in the evening, like once the kids eat dinner and like they're kind of like winding down to go to bed, I'll go for another run. And depending on how many miles I got in the morning will depend on how many miles I get in the evening. And so,
and at work, it's all road miles, correct?
Yeah, and it's terrible. It's like I have to stay very close to the fire station, and I have to run with a radio, and I have to listen to radio traffic. So there's no way for me to like disengage I have to be like engaged and running, and I'm running like a very small loop around the station. So it's more of like a mental monotony type thing, which I think helps me in ultra running, but it's just feeding the addiction really. And then at home, I can obviously I have a whole series of trails all around my house. I have some local mountains that go up to 11,500 feet that I can run on. And I try to hit as many trails as possible.
Are you doing intra run nutrition during these? Like, are you bringing goose on the run, stroop waffle, anything like that?
I mean, not at work. Sometimes I kind of have this like weird thing where I don't really run with food or water unless I'm going over 20 miles. And unless it's like I live somewhere where it gets really, really hot in the summer, like over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So when it's that hot, I'll run with water. But like when it's like below 80, like 70s, 60s, whatever, I'll run with no water, no food. And no real science behind it, but I sort of like the bonky feeling I get on those runs. And I like trying to like push past them, because then like when I race, I hydrate and feed myself like really efficiently. And so my body tends to like be super happy during races because I'm like taking really good care of it. But then if something happens in a race where I don't have enough calories or I don't have enough hydration, like I know what that feels like, and I'm able to like sort of dissect what's going on a little bit better because I'm used to that feeling. And then I can also like push through it because I know how to push through it because I do it in my training. I wouldn't, obviously I wouldn't recommend it, but it's just something I do.
No, I actually like to fast after I run. So I kind of understand what you're saying. But is your body just craving nutrition as soon as the run's over?
Yeah. I mean, I eat a huge meal after I run. And I eat a pretty good like breakfast in the morning before the run. So it's not like I'm going out fasted. It's that I'm going out for like a 4-hour run and I'm doing it off of however many calories I ate in the morning. So normally in the morning I have like a granola bar and then I like coat it with like a copious amount of peanut butter. And that's like my breakfast. So I get like the carbs and the fat.
That's a tiny breakfast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
I thought you were going to say like I had 10 stacks of pancakes and glass of orange juice.
No. I mean, it's high in calories though, because peanut butter is super high in calories and, so it gives me enough fuel to like kind of burn through. But if I'm going like more than 4 hours, then yeah, I will bring food. Like when I do my mountain runs and everything, because that just takes a totally different level of energy. And I definitely don't want to run out of energy on the mountain. I bring food. Yeah.
So, and then how many hours a night do you normally sleep if you're waking up at 2:30?
4.5, somewhere around there. Yeah.
You're a specimen, man. That is crazy. Now,
wouldn't recommend that either, but your body gets used to whatever you give it, so, and being a firefighter and like normally at work, I'm up all night. So if I'm at work, sometimes like, I'll sleep in because it's like, if we're up all night and I get zero sleep, it's real hard for me to start charging again at 2:30. So that's part of the game at work too, is like, I have to take what I can get. And at the end of the day, I have to give myself a little bit of sleep. So.
And I'm sure you're totally on top of cycling your sneakers, like pretty all the time, right?
Yeah, that's like a religion to me, is making sure that I have good shoes and I don't put too many miles on them. I mean, at this point, I can tell exactly when they start to feel flat, but I would say right around 400 miles, I'll cycle them out. Cause I can feel them they don't feel the same. And then I start to get like sore and like weird spots when the shoes start to go flat. And it could be psychosomatic, but it also could be like, I'm always like scared I'm going to get injured, get like an overuse injury or something like that. So as soon as I start to feel that, I'll put a new pair of shoes on.
So let me do the math here. So you use two different pairs of shoes a month for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think I did the math, and it's like I think I went through like 21 or 22 pairs of shoes last year, something like that.
We got to get
The
you a
thing is
sponsor,
like I
man.
have trail shoes and I have road shoes. So sometimes like, I put more miles on road shoes, but because most of our trails out here are pretty nice. I don't need like the grippy, you know, trail shoe. Um, but I also, use them too. So I kind of go back and forth.
Now your Hokas for your road shoes. Are you something else for the trail?
Yeah, I mean, I use Clifton's for like road and like mostly buffed out trail. Like I ran Coldwater and Clifton's, which were just a road shoe. And I just did Rocky Raccoon last weekend and I did that in Clifton's. Um, like races like UTMB or like, Angeles Crest or Kodiak, which are all like mountain races. Then I'll use the Challenger, Hoka Challenger, which is just got more grip. It's got more rock protection and whatnot. So um, there's a lot more really, really steep uphill and really, really steep downhill in mountain races. So having a little bit more grip is better. And then, if there's any sort of mud or anything like that, you don't want to be in like a slick bottom Clifton because that would be like skiing.
Now, was that a problem for you during the cold water running the road shoe? Because there's so many like big rocks.
Yeah, but I mean, that style of trail is like what I train on, because I
Okay.
live in like a desert environment. So that's my wheelhouse. And I've run Coldwater 3 times. So I know that trail, I spent hundreds of miles on that trail. So I know it really, really well. And I know what to expect and where to push it and what sections are like technical and you got to slow down and what sections you can like, you know, unleash a little speed. So
So just from hearing you out here, it seems like UTMB is kind of like your holy grail race. Like that's your Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty fantastic race. I hope I'm going back this year. I got in, so unless this whole COVID thing is always sort of a disaster for international travel, but assuming that there's not any more lockdowns or anything like that, I hope to go back and race it in the end of August for the third time. Um, but
So
yeah,
is
it's
all so are all your other 100-mile races kind of just training leading up to UTMB? Is that where you're at mentally?
uh no, I mean when I train for UTMB, what I'll do is I'll go to like my local mountains and I'll just run up and down them as many times as I can. It'll be more like a training like that. The 100 miles I'm doing now are just kind of just for fun because we haven't got a race in so long that it feels good to go out and like push myself into like the 100-mile realm again. Um, but yeah, when you train for something like UTMB, you have to sort of mimic what you're going to be doing. Um, like we have a mountain a couple hours from me that's like 14,000 feet, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll drive there and there's like a parking lot and I'll sleep in my car and I'll just run to the top of that mountain and back down like as many times as I can. Like if I need to take a nap or like eat or whatever, I'll just do it out of my car. And it's like I think it's like 10 miles up, 10 miles down with like probably about 6,000 feet of vert. And then, like I said, going to 10,000 feet or 14,000 feet. So that's the type of, I bring poles and because there's some really steep stuff and just really work on, running up and down very steep stuff. So distance, like in a mountain race like UTMB, being able to run 100 miles is not as important as like being able to climb like really steep things and then descend really steep things. Because like everyone thinks it's like the uphill that's the hard part in a race like that, but it's actually the downhill because the downhill will blow your quads out. And if you've ever been running a mountain 100-mile race and your quads go out, you're going to have like a really, really rough day. Which of course has happened to me because I've had a lot of bad things happen to me in ultras. So yeah. So I try to train that downhill muscle group like pretty extensively before going and doing any hard 100 that's in the mountains.
I saw a really awesome video on YouTube. It was a documentary with this runner who runs with Red Bull called Dylan Bowman, and it's some French race. Have you heard? I forget its name. What is it called? Do you know? It's like super technical. Is that the French Pass or something like that?
I don't know.
It's
not the Tour of Giants. Is it Tour de? I can't even speak French, but it's not the 250-mile one, is it?
Let me look it up real quick. And speaking of, as I'm looking this up, have you done Moab yet?
No, it gets so hard because it's like right in the middle of fire season. It's really all Candace's races are like the worst time in the world for like being a firefighter. That's why Cocodona was so awesome, because it's like in May, or is it May or March? I think it's May. But like whenever it was, it's like not in fire season, and so it's like easy for me to get the time off. But all Candace's races, like Bigfoot, Tahoe, and Moab, are like right when the whole state of California is on fire, and it's so hard for me to get time off work.
So is Moab on your list at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I anything hard and long like that, I'd love to do and try. Cocodona was my first 200-mile race, and I did terrible at it, but I finished it. So, like anything, I'll go back and try to improve my time and learn. I learned a lot of important lessons, but I'm not going to say I did like amazing like I thought I was going to do or anything like that. Like, it was a disaster of a race, but I finished it. So a lot of people can't say that. So I guess I got that going for me.
Yeah, for anyone listening, Cocodona is like a brand new race that Aravaipa puts on. That's a 250-mile race through like a good portion of Arizona. And essentially a lot of the aid stations are at small little towns, right? Like these little pop-up towns in the middle of the desert.
Exactly. It was like 257 miles with like 40,000 feet of vert, and very, very technical. Probably one of the most technical races I've ever run. So adding technicality and then 250 miles, like it's a struggle on your legs. So
now, what is the sleep schedule like for you over the course of those 3-4 days?
So it took me 5 days. It was a crazy. They gave us 5 days and 5 hours to finish it, and they thought everyone was going to finish a lot sooner. I think nobody finished until day 4. Like the guy that won it finished on day 4, and then most of the pros finished at the end of day 4, like in the 100-something hour range. And then I finished in 119 hours, and I slept a total of 9 hours. So not very much sleep for 5 days.
How are you feeling at the end of it?
Delusional. I lost a ton of weight, and I was pretty wrecked. It was an experience. Yeah. I basically would run for like 22 hours a day until I started hallucinating so bad. And then I would take like a 2-hour nap and then get up and do it again. And that was pretty wild.
Where did you really start falling apart? At what point?
Well, I mean, the problem was at mile 5, I like basically tore my hamstring. I tripped.
Oh yeah, you were telling me this.
Yeah, and I tripped and I like tore it. So that changed my whole ability to like move rapidly. And it threw my whole game off. It changed my gait. It changed how I approached down hills, and things that I would normally be able to like tackle like no problem was a challenge. So I mean, the race kind of fell apart at mile 5, and I still had 252 miles to go. So, I don't know. I just made it happen. I mean, I was hell bent on making it happen. And I did. I wanted to learn a lot. I'd done a 3-day loop course before, and I got 230 miles, but that's a lot different because I was just kind of running flat stuff. And, anytime I wanted to take a break, I'd go and just take a nap. But now this was serious. So I learned how to take dirt naps. That was my first race where I ever like would lay down and sleep for like 10 minutes. I'd put my alarm on my chest or my phone on my chest, set the alarm, and then like it would wake me up 10 minutes later and I'd get up and start running again. So, and I did it like 100% solo with no help. So that was a whole other challenge too, because I had to rely mostly on aid stations and drop bags. And, you know, if I didn't have the right things in the drop bags, and, you know, I just had to make it work. So there were a couple of very, very cold nights where I didn't have, you know, proper warm gear and got very cold. So
That is insane, man. I just did the Google search. The name of the race is the Grand Raid.
I don't know. There's so many races in Europe. Europe is like, you go to Europe and they have a TV channel that is all ultra runs. And kind of like, I don't know if you followed Black Canyon this last weekend, but the way Jamel is like putting his Air Viper races on YouTube and like kind of like live footage of people running, that's how like all European races are. And they literally have a channel that just plays these ultra races on it, kind of like ESPN for ultra running. It's a big deal out there. And they have a lot of very unique races that are going on. So, but I can't keep track of them all. There's so many.
So what is your like your checklist? What is it you still want to get done in the sport?
I mean, if I had like I would love to do hard rock. Part of me wants to do Western States, but I haven't entered the lottery in a long time because I kind of got burnt out on losing, and so I just gave up. But if for somehow maybe I'll start entering again and try to run that race just because it's like the first 100 or whatever. But hard rock, I'd love to do that. I think it would be interesting to try to get into Barkley at some point, but that'd be further into the future. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of take it year by year and just see where I'm at and what comes up. All these new races are showing up, and it's kind of exciting to try to do them. Like I'm doing UTMB Mexico this year, and it's like the first year that they're ever doing it. And I'm kind of excited to do that, like a 100-mile race in Mexico. Like, I mean, assuming I don't get taken by drug cartels, it should be like a pretty fun time running through the Mexican jungle. If China ever opens it back up to ultra running, like I love running out there. I'd like to there's that Hong Kong race out there where they run in Hong Kong. And basically I just love traveling internationally. So I guess my long-term goals would be to do as many international races as possible and turn them into like little mini vacations for me and my wife. Like, hey, honey, we're going to go to Hong Kong. Okay. By the way, I'm going to run 100 miles while we're there. And then afterwards, we can hit the spa and have fun or whatever.
So have you been with your wife through the development of your running career, or did this start while you were with her?
So I just started doing 100-mile races when we first started dating. So yeah, she's been through all the crazy ultra stuff. I'd done for a couple of years before I did hundreds. I did 50Ks, 50 milers, 100Ks. It was a slow progression before I started doing like the straight 100-mile race. So, but she started dating me right when I first started running hundreds. So she's seen most of the craziness.
So she's a real one, man. She
knew what she was getting. She knew what she was getting herself into, and now she's stuck. So, but most of these races I do solo, and I do them uncrewed. She'll come crew me sometimes, but I kind of like being solo more than I like being crewed because it makes it a little bit more challenging, and it makes me really have to focus on like taking care of myself and thinking about where I'm at in the race and what I need to accomplish, which I guess makes me focus a little bit more. But I mean, when I first started running them, I was always crewed and paced and all that stuff. But as I've progressed in the sport, it becomes more fun just to be by myself and like have it be me versus me. And, be working through all the problems by myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying. Do you have to, like, when you set your schedule for the week, I know it probably is totally fly by night with you, but do you set time aside, like, all right, I got to spend some time with my wife and my kids, or is that just also like day by day type thing?
No, the whole, like if it's a weekend, then I'll finish my run kind of when everyone's waking up, so that I'll have like the whole morning into the afternoon with them, and then I don't run again until the evening when like the day's kind of over. Um, my night run is normally shorter, so like if my wife and I are going to go on a date or something like that, then it's like I just won't run as far that evening. It's not like really not that big a deal. So I because I wake up at 2:30, I can always get enough miles in the morning that I don't really ever need to worry about the evening. So the evening's just kind of like bonus miles to add to the stack. So, but I haven't not really had that issue. And then it's like when I have a lot of times when I do these hundreds, like I'm running 100 on Saturday, and I'm literally like, tomorrow I'm driving out to Vegas. I'm gonna like spend the night in a hotel, wake up, run the 100 miler, hopefully finish sometime in 2 or 3 in the morning, get in my car, drive back to California, and then I'll be home in the morning to like hang out with the wife. So
that's a good segue though. So what are your anticipations for the jackpot? And can you kind of explain what the race is?
Sure. So jackpot is put on by Beyond Limits Ultra. It's like it's a husband and wife team, Ken and Stephanie, and they're really, really awesome people. And they put on great races. They're great race directors, good friends of mine. And it's in a park in Henderson, which is like a suburb of Las Vegas. And you basically, I think it's 2 miles, but I've done it so many times now, I'm like second guessing. Maybe it's 2.5 miles, maybe it's 2.25. But you basically run around this lake in this park, however many times it takes to get 100 miles or whatever your goal is. They have, I think, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, 100-mile, and maybe they have shorter distances too. And then they also have tomorrow, they're having like some sort of championship race where there's like a $10,000 prize, and all the pros are coming out to try to run it. And Aravipa is actually going to be live broadcasting it, which will be kind of exciting. Like, all the top women and men ultra runners will be out there trying to get that $10,000. But yeah, it's a looped course. So basically it's kind of like nice because you don't have to carry anything, because I basically set a cooler up with my food, and every 2 miles I come by it and all my food and everything's there. And if I need it, I'll eat something. And if I don't, I just keep running another loop. And then when I come back to my cooler, if I need more food, that's right there. And then they also have like a really big aid station at the start finish line. So, it's really, I come to food and water every 1 mile because I can get it at that aid station too. So, it's like a great first ultra. Like if you want to dip your toe in the ultra world, those are like super safe and super easy. Well, not easy, but easier, because you don't necessarily need to have like the backpack and all the gear and, all that stuff.
You'll never be alone.
Yeah. And there's just hundreds of people on the course, and everyone's, encouraging everybody. And, you can always find somebody that's going at your pace, and you can like, run with them or walk with them or whatever, and just, enjoy yourself. So, but yeah, since it's my birthday, I normally run like 100 miles on my birthday, and this race is lined up with my birthday for the last several years. So it's kind of like, it's, not my ideal ultra, but like at the same time, it's fun and it's my birthday, and, I'm just going to go out there and have a good time.
So you're in the midst of your taper right now. So most people's taper, they don't run at all, but you just peel back on mileage to like 10% or 20%?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've run, I don't know, 50 something miles so far this week. So I guess like maybe, peel it back like maybe about 50%.
And what'd you do today?
I've done 10 so far. Yeah. 10 today. I did 11 yesterday, and then I did 15 on Monday and Tuesday. But I wanted more on Monday and Tuesday, but I got too busy at work to be able to get it. So it kind of worked out because I was like, well, I'm tapering, so I'll justify it. But
Do you start getting
yeah.
itchy during your taper? Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I hate it. I freaking hate tapering. Like when I used to taper appropriately and like, kind of do like the 2 week out thing. Oh, it was the worst. So I just, I'm not professional. I'm not sponsored. I don't care how I do. If I do great, then awesome. And if I do terrible, awesome. Like it just doesn't matter to me. So I don't feel like I need to do any special preparation for running these races. I don't know. I would not encourage people to not taper, and I would not encourage people to do what I do ever, but it works for me. So I'm going to keep doing it.
but it must be exciting for you seeing some of these ultra runners get attraction. Like I had Mikkel Greglia on the show who won Moab and he won Badwater, and it's his full-time job. Like, would you like to transition to that point at some point, or do you think you'll always want to be a firefighter?
Oh, never. I'd never want to be a professional runner ever. Never, never, never. Firefighting is the best job in the world. Just so you know, it is amazing. But yeah, he's a cool guy, and like I'm super pumped for him for like making that happen. He's super talented too. I met him at a Beyond Limits race, which is the race directors that are putting on Jackpot, and he won the 24-hour race, and I won the 72-hour race. So we did a lot of loops out there together, and yeah, I mean, for me, this is just a hobby. I mean, you're asking
it's a crazy hobby, man.
Well, it is, but like you were asking before, like was I, like athletic as a kid, and like on some level, but I don't think that I have any like underlying talent that people like Walmsley or anybody professional has. I'm not like that. All I have is like intense work ethic and like
a little bit of mania.
Very, very, mania, and just consistency, and just the ability to just do hard work like every day. And that's all. That's what I represent, really. Like just get out there, and you don't need any talent. You just need to work hard. And I try to teach that to my kids, and I try to teach that to my firefighters. And it's just all really about just hard work and work ethic and consistency. And talent is great, but most people don't have it. So I wouldn't really focus on it. If you have it and you have work ethic, then that's great. Then you're going to be incredible, and you'll be on a totally different level. Like I can never pronounce his name, but you did an amazing job.
Greglia.
I'm not good on Italian, but yeah, those guys have the talent and the work ethic, and that's awesome. But I just have the work ethic.
I hear you. I more so mean like your content is great, and it could become popular enough where you just get tons of sponsors and make tons of bread off sponsorship. Like that must be exciting.
No, I get emails every day and I delete them. Like I do not want to be sponsored. I do not want to be an ambassador or sponsored or anything. I make my content because I want people to run, and I want to like put positivity into the world and show people that they can accomplish things, and if they put their mind to it. And that is like my only mission when it comes to social media. I do not ever, it's not about, hey, look at these shoes or look at this goo or I'm a new ambassador or whatever. Like I don't ever want to be that person. I make plenty of money being a firefighter, and I don't need free shoes. I don't need free food, and I don't need anything free. So yeah, my content is just the butterfly effect of trying to encourage people to exercise and be positive. And I hope that by making funny little videos and videos about the crazy stuff that I do, that maybe it motivates and encourages people to go do that in their own lives. But I don't want to make a buck off of it that way.
Even if Hoka hit you up and they said, all right, man, you don't have to buy any more like 2 pairs of shoes a month here.
Never. I never would ever. No. I mean, I've been hit up by a lot of companies. I don't want to like drop names, but like I mean, I get a lot of emails, like, and it's not going to happen. So I just,
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a NASCAR and I don't, I have a lot of friends that are sponsored and I love that they're sponsored and that's great. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to be like, if I use a product, it's because I like it. And if I tell you I use it, it's because I like it, but not because some corporation is giving me something so that it's genuine. I like it. And this is what I use. Not, I'm getting it for free from some company. So, and then, I don't know, just a total like separate rant. I have friends that are like way more talented than me. Like, I don't know if you know who Jake Jackson is, but he's like just an incredible runner. And he's one of those like 24-hour runners that does like 168 miles around the track. He's on like the US 24-hour team and everything. And he was like an ambassador to Hoka. And they dropped him because he doesn't have enough followers, and it's like, that's crazy to me because he's like an incredible athlete. But it's like, if you don't have enough followers and you don't, play the game right, then these companies just like throw you away like you're a piece of trash. And that like pisses me off, honestly. I have followers and that's cool, but like, I hope they realize that I'm not like trying to sell them anything other than running is fun.
I think one cool thing you could do is at some point host a race.
Yeah. Yeah. I have thought about putting together some like cool fat ass races in my local mountains and stuff. And then I've also like, I'm not necessarily opposed to like doing like charity things where I like try to raise money for like charities. I do a lot of those sort of charity race type things where my miles get uploaded
on Strava.
Yeah. I'll do stuff like that, but if it's for a good cause, I'll do it. But I'm not trying to make a buck or save a buck, from some corporation. I'm a punk rocker at heart, so down with corporations. I'm not going to be a corporate whore, and I'm going to stay true to my beliefs and keep my integrity intact.
I too am an F corporate guy. I've never went corporate. Good. Never will, brother.
Yeah. So
I think there's a lot of that out there on the trails too.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I have a lot of friends that do it, and I'm not judging them. I think it's great that they can get free stuff, but I'm lucky enough to be in a financial situation where I don't need that. I worked hard in my career so that I can buy shoes if I want to, and I can buy a nice watch if I want to, and I don't need to get it for free. So I set myself up for success on that level, and I'm going to embrace it.
Now, closing out real quick, what do you rock for a watch?
I've always rocked Garmin, and that's like right now I just got the new Phoenix 7X. I love the Phoenix series because it's like a mountaineering type watch, and I do a lot of backpacking and mountaineering, so it makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, I've always been a Garmin fanboy. And, I wish I could find all my old Garmins because it's like, the first Garmin GPS watch was like this big. And I used to have to like put it out on my porch for like 30 minutes so it could pick up the satellites and everything. And now they're like little and light. And, yeah. This thing's got like solar glass that like takes the sun in and charges the battery. And it's wild. But yeah. This last race I did, it was like everybody is obsessed with battery life, which I get. I mean, it's important in an ultra, but I used 20% of my battery in my 100-mile race. That's so that was kind of cool. Yeah. So the batteries are definitely getting like way, way better. But I also, I remember when I used to have to bring a battery pack and like at mile 50, I would plug my watch in and like run with it charging for like 10 miles. So that I could get like the whole Strava segment on 100 milers. So,
dude, I know
technology improves and it's cool, but I can remember the old school days too.
Yeah, I was gonna say during the cold water, my watch died at 94 miles. You know how bad dude.
Kill me.
Just bless me with that Strava data, man. Damn.
I know what watch do you use?
I was using the Coros Apex too, but I mean, I guess it was like the heat or the cold that just sucked the life out of it.
Yeah, that cold, the batteries like have a hard time with the cold. I use those the Aftershocks ear headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried those?
Are those JBLs?
No, they're like Aftershocks is the brand, but they're bone conducting, so they sit on your temples, so you can still use your ears.
I have never heard of that.
Oh, they're so awesome. So like when you're running, you can still use your ears and hear everything that's going around, but like the music goes through your bone. Anyways, same thing. Like anytime it gets really, really cold because it has that lithium battery, they just die so fast, and it's like so frustrating. But that's just a lithium battery for you.
I'm gonna look those up. The Aftershocks.
It's with a Z. It's like Aftershock with a Z.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, I had a great time, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, and hey, I'm sorry about all the scheduling conflicts and getting force hired and all this stuff, but thanks for being accommodating to my fire schedule.
No problem whatsoever. And I wish you the best of luck at Jackpot, and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, the one thing I do before we end the episode, just for content, you got to say, hi, my name is blank, and this is my golden hour.
Okay.
And
hi,
my fault. The floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, my name's Andy Glaze, and this is my golden hour.
Bang, you got it. Well executed. And I'll when we get off the Zoom here, I'll get your address so I can shoot you a shirt.
Okay, perfect, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Hey, it was great to meet you, and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, man.
It's a shame in 10 years, y'all gon' see the difference. I do this shit nationally, but check your local listings. They proud living single, not make a single living. Shorty want something real, I want the hidden hills.